Okay, right. So now we've had a terror attack in California. I can't say I'm surprised. ISIS has warned that they will attack in America. The details about all this are still being investigated, but the person responsible for this has flown overseas. His wife is from overseas. She came to the U.S. on a K-1 visa, which means they were planning to get married. The San Bernardino police chief, I thought, was more open about who these were than the guy who runs the FBI office in the Los Angeles area. He's more the type that is spouting the party line of the Obama administration. But this is terrorism. This guy had 4 guns that are known about. This guy had thousands of rounds of ammunition. He had made pipe bombs that were to be detonated in the same way as the bomb at the Boston Marathon. The aftermath of this is disturbing. First of all, I don't think that he intended to target his workmates. Just a hunch, but I'm of the opinion that he must have had some other target in mind initially, because he obviously had a plan in place. One does not go and purchase guns and all these rounds of ammunition on the spur of the moment. So my guess is that this guy had planned to attack somewhere. Maybe at work, maybe not, but something apparently happened at this party at work that angered him enough to do this. But the aftermath is what is particularly disturbing about this, because the Democrats are wasting no time in pushing for more legislation, more gun control laws. And I cannot believe that people don't see through this. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of gun control laws in this nation, at the federal, state, and local level. What more amidst all those thousands of laws? What is the gun law that will work? They talk about common sense gun control. I just saw Senator Barbara Boxer from California, talking about how we need more gun control. How about this, Senator Boxer? How about actually keeping criminals locked up? We were doing a good job of that in California until the teeth were taken out of that 3 strikes law. And now we've let all these criminals loose, and people are getting caught in the crossfire. And I've done a video on this, where people get caught in the crossfire because we've let criminals loose that have grudges to settle. And one was an 8-year-old girl that was shot when she was with her family at a laundromat because a gangster was let out of prison. And I've mentioned several examples of this type of thing happening since we turned all these criminals loose. Now all these criminals are loose, this stuff is happening, and the answer is gun control? How about keeping defective people, predatory people, that are so depraved that they prey on honest citizens? How about keeping them locked up? Tens of millions of Americans own guns that go through their entire lives without ever hurting anyone. That idea of taking guns away from people like that is an infringement on rights and liberty. It is unjust. It is no different than if a person were arrested because their neighbor is a burglar. Just because someone else commits a crime with a gun, the law-abiding has that right taken away from them. And it is a right recognized by the U.S. Constitution. A lot of people don't believe that, but it is a right of the individual. It is the right we have to keep and bear arms. Now, in most places in the U.S., we can keep arms, but we really can't bear them. There's so much red tape involved in actually being able to carry them. And really, for most practical purposes, in most places, it is not legal to actually carry arms. So, the people arguing that, well, why didn't gun ownership stop this attack or other attacks and crimes that happen in California? It's because, basically, if you buy a gun in California, all you can do is keep it in your house. You can't have it with you anywhere else. If you drive around with a gun, it must be locked and in the trunk and unloaded. The concealed carry permit laws in California are such that the sheriff in the county you live in gets to decide whether you have a concealed carry permit or not. Some counties basically allow everyone that applies that doesn't have a criminal record to do that, to have a concealed carry permit, but other counties allow next to no one to have a concealed carry permit. Los Angeles County, for example. They only have a few hundred concealed carry permit holders in all of Los Angeles County out of the millions of people there. It's because it's a may issue system where the county sheriff can decide to not issue a permit even if you have no criminal record. Whereas in some states, it's a must issue. If you apply for a permit and you have no criminal record or some set criteria that applies to everyone equally, they must issue that permit to you. This means that in California, especially in San Francisco area or Los Angeles County, only the politically connected can get concealed carry permits. That isn't fair. That isn't American. That is not rule of law. That is not equal application of the law to all. There's something fundamentally un-American about that. So, if you want to protect yourself, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you're just out of luck in many, many areas of the United States. It is just un-American. If they really wanted people to be safe, by the way, they wouldn't keep turning all these criminals loose. And that just is just such a simple concept. So, you know, I see Senator Boxer here. She talked about how her son's best friend was gunned down in some legal office somewhere. And how that hurts her, and she's so saddened by all this, and it's just all this emotional appeal and these crocodile tears to push the leftist agenda. I see these people, these leftists, these Democrats, and Schumer was here, and Muir was there. They're all Democrats, and they just pull at these emotional strings rather than appealing to reason. But leftists can't appeal to reason. They don't have reason on their side. They don't have logic on their side. They must try to appeal to emotion to be able to implement their agenda. Barbara Boxer, in this, had talked about how we lost about 60,000 people in the 10 years we were in Vietnam. and we lose that many gun deaths in 2 years in the country. That is, in this country, that we lose about 60,000 people to guns in the U.S. in 2 years. As many as in 2 years as the 10 years of Vietnam. But that is irresponsible use of statistics, because we did not have 315 million soldiers in Vietnam. So you were still more likely to die in Vietnam by a long shot than in the general population of America. Even now, 60,000 people in 2 years out of 315 million people versus 60,000 in 10 years in Vietnam, but that was solely out of the people that were in the military in Vietnam at the time. So that is a deliberate distortion. It's a deliberate falsehood on the part of Barbara Boxer. But what else to expect from a leftist? Furthermore, the people that are gunned down so often are criminals themselves. You have a pretty good chance of never being shot in your life if you don't associate with criminals. That being said, yes, there are innocents caught in the crossfire, and that's a tragedy when it happens, and I've mentioned several instances of that in California in some of my videos, since we've started turning all these criminals loose. That is all the more reason, if they aren't going to keep these criminals in prison, that we should be able to exercise our Second Amendment rights. This leftist practice of using every tragedy like this to limit our rights is dangerous. These people are dangerous. They don't want to keep the Syrians out of our country. They don't want to keep prisoners, violent prisoners, locked up, and yet somehow the fact that we own guns, that we have the right to own guns, is the problem. And they keep pushing for more and more gun control legislation. That is missing the point entirely. This idea, this common sense gun control. What have they been doing all along? These other thousands and thousands of laws. Haven't they passed a single one that's common sense? What have they been doing if they still haven't passed a common sense gun control law? Do they know that they've been passing nonsensical ones all along? They still haven't got it right? If they've been passing nonsensical gun control laws, they're still trying to find that sensible one. They need to scrap all the others that they passed been passing all along. Because obviously, they haven't passed a common sense gun control law yet. They're the ones who passed the laws. So what have they been doing?